Alright, y'all ready? Y'all ready?
I've been ready.
Give me the key.
Well, now we're finally at the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Welcome again to Strange Nights in the Universe, right? Podcast.
And this time we're here at the Villisca Axe Murder House.
How you guys feeling? Can you feel the chills? I feel paranormal drunk and regular drunk at the same time. So even the drunkest I've ever been.
I feel chills from a specific room. That's about it. You know, obviously where the two neighbor girls were killed. I feel like I was telling Eric, it was, you know, they were killed away from home.
Yeah.
So maybe they didn't get the pass, and maybe that's why that room is so like eerie.
Do you feel that kind of vibe from that room?
Absolutely.
Just being in this house, I feel I have a headache. Just a headache.
Right
now, I still feel a headache.
I felt kind of drunk when I first got in here. Feels like the house is like tilted. I don't know if you get that.
Like it's like this?
Yeah. Like you're not level.
Yes, so look at that.
So just physically.
Well, here.
Oh, yeah,
I'll
it is
put it
good.
here so we can all see. Oh, well, the table's very good.
level.
Very level. But if we could see this on the ground, it's actually rolling.
And for
the left, see, look, with some speed too.
And for those of you that don't know about this place, 8 people died at this house. 8 people died. Some man either hid in the attic or in the closet. And as soon as everyone went to sleep, he came out of the closet and just axed them all in the face.
Man or woman, because apparently this is the most long cold case here in Villisca, right? Or
Yeah.
almost in Iowa, I think he even mentioned, right?
Yeah, and no one knows who did it. No one knows who did it.
I think it was the neighbor lady who was up at 4:30 in the morning and claimed something was off, and then had sent somebody around 8 to come check on the house. Gave him a key to check the house.
But you think a lady would do it?
What? Why
The
would
next?
Well, what about
Why
Lizzie
not?
Borden? Isn't Lizzie Borden like a woman next to her parents?
There are so many women who have gone fucking psycho and just committed
But to
random
have-
acts of violence.
Well, yeah, I guess an axe is already heavy. All you need is to protect.
I mean, look at that. What's the name? Casey Anderson or something like that.
The drowned her baby?
Yeah, you know, like, you know, look at La Llorona, dude. You know, she drowned her kids, right?
Yep.
You know, there's multiple cases of women going crazy. You know, it's not like, you know, being crazy is specific to one gender or whatnot.
Come on, Eric, we're in 20. But I'm saying how it was like a brutal murder.
It was very brutal. So yeah, I mean,
He said that the person who did it whacked everyone with the back end of the axe to just incapacitate, to knock him out.
blunt end. They said they used the blunt end at least on the parents
Mm-hmm.
to crush their skulls in, right?
Yeah, the Moore family.
The details.
Alright, June 9th, 1912. That's when it happened. Around 9:30.
The program ended at 9:30. The Moores and the Stillinger sisters walked to the Moores' house, so they were about a block away, arriving at 9:45 to 10 p.m. At 7 a.m. the next day, June 10th, Mary Peckham, the Moores' neighbors, became concerned after she noticed that the family had not come out to do their morning chores. Peckman knocked on the Moores' doors. When nobody answered, she tried to open the door and discovered that it was locked. Peckman let the Moores' chickens out and called Ross Moore, Josiah's brother. Like Peckman, Moore received no response when he knocked on the door and shouted. Ross unlocked the front door with his copy of the house key while Peckman stood on the porch. Ross went into the parlor and opened the guest bedroom door, where he found Ina and Lena Stillinger bodies on the bed in that room that we claimed is eerie. Where are we at here?
Ed Moore immediately told Peckham to call Henry Hank Horton, Villisca's primary peace officer, who arrived shortly thereafter. Horton's search of the house revealed that the entire Moore family and the 2 Stillinger girls had been bludgeoned to death. The murder weapon, an axe belonging to Josiah, was found in the guest room where the Stillinger sisters were found. Who's Josiah?
Josiah is the dad, so J.D. Moore is Josiah Moore. And that's, grab me that middle picture on the top row.
I could hear the cat. You guys hear him?
Yeah. I thought I was hearing something.
So here we have Joe Moore, aka Josiah Moore.
And if anybody is interested in adopting a cat, there's one here that really needs to come.
We already have a potential taker right here.
We have one potential taker. If there's any more.
So let's see. Doctors concluded that the murders had taken place between midnight and 5 a.m. 2 spent cigarettes in the attic suggested that the killers patiently waited in the attic until the Moore family and the Stillinger guests were asleep. The killer began in the master bedroom where Josiah and Sarah Moore were sleeping. Josiah received more blows from the axe than any other victim. His face had been cut to such an extent that his eyes were missing.
Damn. They used the blade of the axe on Josiah while using the blunt end of the rest of the victims. They proceeded into the children's room and bludgeoned Herman, Mary, Catherine, Arthur, and Paul in the head in the same manner as their parents. They returned to the master bedroom to inflict more blows on the elder Moores, knocking over a shoe that had filled with blood before moving downstairs to the guest bedroom and killing Ina and Lena. Investigators believe that all of the victims, except for Lena Stillinger, had been asleep when murdered. Damn. They thought that she was awake and tried to fight back as she was found lying crosswise on the bed and with a defensive wound on her arm. Lena's nightgown was pushed up to her waist and she was wearing no undergarments, leading to law enforcement speculating that the killer sexually molested her or attempted to do so.
Disgusting.
Jesus. So that's
that was
more
here.
That's
that
where you
was
felt
in
the
this
better.
room, yeah. And that kind of makes sense a little bit.
What if it was more than one person that did it?
And it doesn't make sense. Like they had mentioned the forensic file or like the forensics, that it just didn't make sense. They had like one pair of footprints, that was outside of everybody else. So that's why I think it's a single killer.
The most oddest thing that the guy who gave us the tour was that after apparently he was done, he cooked himself breakfast.
Cooked himself
Yeah, he
breakfast.
said there was bacon on the floor and
They said he ate in that room too, didn't they?
No,
He said he had put like a tablecloth or something like that, and they found like all his dishes in that room, I believe.
I think he said in the kitchen.
Was it the kitchen?
I think so.
Possibly. Then.
that was the most oddest thing. Like what? Imagine after him doing that, and then he just walks like, hey, nothing happened.
And
Like how
nobody
can
saw him leave the
how
house.
can you eat after that? Like you have to be really fucked up to eat after that, huh, Gio?
Yeah. You have to be like sick in the head.
That dude just. What if he was part of the whole mob, or they're all here? He just went in there and just blended with the whole mob, and he was just acting like, oh yeah, what? Whoever it was.
But then to walk out, well, yeah, it was like 5 in the morning, right? Or 4,
Well, they
whenever
said
he left.
between midnight and 5 in the morning.
Because this
Right.
lady was out at 4, right? The neighbor?
She was awake at
Oh,
4:30.
awake at 4?
Mm-hmm.
Outside, right? Doing chores?
Doing something, but she was awake.
She was awake. She was
And
next
then you hear
door.
no screaming. Well,
She felt like something
Yeah.
was odd because apparently this family had a routine they do every morning,
The chores.
and
morning
they
chores.
didn't do it, and she was like, oh, that's odd.
Like here's the thing, as we just discussed, who was it? Which sister was it? Lena supposedly she wasn't asleep, they believe, because of how she was positioned on the bed.
And she had a wound on her
defensive
arm.
wound, so that could mean like, she tried to block an axe, like she'd immediately be screaming. These are young girls, right?
Mhm.
As soon as, like, if you saw your kid, you see like your brother or sister bludgeoned to death, you're gonna freak the fuck out and scream for help, right? Scream bloody murder. So you're gonna tell me a neighbor that close wouldn't be able to hear?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's what I asked. Like, while all of this going on, no one was hearing anything, like screaming, or like if people were fighting or struggling. Wouldn't you hear that?
Well, I can understand all the other ones because based on like their body positioning and whatnot, they didn't even wake up from their sleep. They were just boom, done, right? Except for this one who had the defensive wound, who had, it appears, her positioning on the bed shows that she got up from bed and tried to move.
Yeah.
So she would have to at least scream, right? As a little girl. Little girls get frightened easily. And you're gonna tell me like your sibling just got bludgeoned to death and you're not gonna scream bloody murder? Bullshit. I'm sure she screamed. The neighbor had to have heard that.
what if they were knocked the fuck out?
Well, I mean, that depends on the timeline, right?
You're talking about these walls. I'm sure these are thick concrete walls. I don't think this
You
is
think it's made of concrete?
the cheap drywall.
Like plaster?
Yeah, or the...
I mean, look at the wall.
There, that looks like drywall, but was this restored? I mean, they
But
said
back
that
then
they
they
kept it
used
preserved plaster.
Wasn't it brick? use back in the day? They use like a better, like more soundproof like material.
Do you think it's still like that?
We'll do a test later where somebody will scream from that room as loud as they can, and we'll go outside. I'll scream, and then you guys will go out there, and you'll let me know how well you hear it. All right?
They didn't restore this house, right? They just probably they bought like new furniture.
Did like little fixes. They said they tried to keep the furniture as well as they could, but a lot of it got burnt apparently.
Yeah, they said the whole town was going in and out of this house,
right after
which messed up the evidence.
Yeah.
So just people in here in and out, just going crazy. Pretty much a lot of the evidence got lost.
Yeah, fucked up so much.
Yep.
You lost so much evidence in that.
And then they said
because we're a small town. What's the population?
Yeah, exactly. It's a small town. They didn't think something like this would happen, so they were probably like, "Whoa, what the hell?"
Then they said the investigator came from Kansas City, but he came here drunk.
Yeah. I was like,
so
what?
It's like that's already
turn up.
Like
that's my kind of investigator.
Pretty much, how's he gonna get his job done, right?
Yeah, like you're turned at the job. You're looking for a murder, but you're already drunk and shit.
You think it was a guy off his meds that just was crazy?
I don't think they did that much meds back then.
Back then there was no meds.
No, let's do this. So this is the main name that pops up a lot is Reverend George Kelly, right? This is the one that claimed to have confessed and then...
Is that the guy that would go from town to town?
The Reverend... Well, here. So Kelly was an English-born traveling minister, so as you said, town to town, in town on the night of the murders. Kelly was described as peculiar, reportedly having suffered a mental breakdown as an adolescent. As an adult, he was accused of peeping and several times asking young women and girls to pose nude for him. On June 8, 1912, he came to Villisca to teach at the Children's Day service, right? So that kind of throws stuff off.
That's the wrong guy to be doing that kind of service.
But that kind of throws stuff off, right?
Yeah.
Because they claim that he hid in here, you know. Well, that's the speculation. It's like they hid here, right? But if he was doing that service that they were at, like, you know, doesn't that kind of throw the timeline off? Did the family go get some food afterwards or something like that?
And he came straight here.
But it says they had walked here, you know, and obviously.
Why did he pick this place? Why this house? Why this family?
Maybe
just random pick.
Like, you know, like they said here,
peeping on girls.
He was accused of peeping and asked several girls to pose nude. You know, maybe he had rape in his mind.
And back then, people who think like this, they'll just send him to, well, it's like this mental illness wasn't understood. They'll just think, he's crazy, send him to the psychiatric ward.
Alright, so let's see.
Sounds crazy. He is crazy if he is like.
So he was in Villisca to teach at the Children's Day service, which the Moore family attended on June 9th, 1912. Right? So on June 8th, he came to teach. On June 9th, he taught it. He left town between 5 a.m. and 5:30 a.m. on June 10th, so the day after. Hours before bodies were discovered, Reverend Kelly had confessed to the murders in court, but the jury didn't believe his confession. In the weeks that followed, he displayed a fascination with the case and wrote many letters to police investigators and the family of the deceased. This aroused suspicion, and a private investigator wrote back to Reverend Kelly asking for details that the minister might know about the murders. Kelly replied with great detail, claiming to have heard sounds and possibly witnessed the murders. His known mental illness made authorities question whether he knew the details because of having committed the murder or he was imagining his account. There we go.
In 1914, 2 years after the murders, Kelly was arrested for sending obscene material through the mail. He was sexually harassing a woman who applied for a job as his secretary. He was sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital, the National Mental Hospital in Washington, D.C. See, I was saying, like, they'll just send him to the psychiatric ward. Washington, D.C. Investigators speculated again that Kelly could be the murderer of the Moore family. In 1917, Kelly was arrested for the Villisca murders. Police obtained a confession from him. However, it followed many hours of interrogation, and Kelly later recanted after 2 separate trials. He was acquitted.
How?
What does he look like? I want to know what this man.
Are you sure you want to know what the face of this disgusting human being looks like?
Because they acquitted him. So like, Reverend George Kelly.
Dude, Google Bing.
It's a habit. I use that so much that now, like, even on Google, I'll prefer Bing.
He Googled Bing.
Reverend
George Kelly.
The best web search engine.
Next to go.
I don't know if I even want to see this guy. Oh, he looks like a straight fucking pervert.
Which one is he?
I'm sure we'll get a video here, or like an image here, so you can see it.
Oh, this man.
This fucking weird freak. Put this one. This one's kind of clear definition.
Does he look like?
This guy.
He looks short.
He looks like a murderer. He looks like a pedophile. He looks like a rapist. Chances are.
That's a lot of accusations.
I mean,
He just looks odd.
He got accused. You know,
He harasses women.
well, there's evidence of him. You know, sending like inappropriate shit to women. Right? He got in trouble for that. He was accused of other incidents of that. Right? Obviously, this was over 100 years ago now. So like, technology wasn't what it is. You know.
Yeah.
Let's go dig up his grave and fucking piss on him.
Do you believe he did it? Like from a scale of 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 100, how much do you believe that he did it?
I don't know. Based on that look, it wouldn't surprise me. No, based on, you know, like the corruption in the church and how many pedophiles there are as, you know, priests or reverends,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised to say that. So I'd probably say like a 78%.
78. Well, a lot of his behavior of harassing and doing just weird shit kind of adds to like if he was actually the guy who did it.
I mean, like Ed said, he could have been here to rape, but
It went wrong.
yeah, it went wrong. And
Well, because that's the thing. Like 100 years ago, right? He's a traveling reverend. It's much easier to elude the officers. And it's much easier to avoid.
You have a lot of leeway
the law.
if you're like associated with the church. Kind of.
that and
Back
like,
then.
Because
and
they
that-
obviously let
and
you.
nothing like that ever happened, right? Till he came to the town. There you go.
They would have lynched him if they were like all for like, hey, this guy did it. They would have done their own
Unless
their
he
own.
was- He was like Ted Bundy, who just everyone loved him.
Let me see if we can get.
Like everyone he met, they loved him. Like they were like, oh, he's a
But-
great guy. You know, he
but-
could have been like had that personality.
But with Ted Bundy, there was
He was,
multiple women who like dated him, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he was a charmer." Right here is
Yeah,
right here. Well, they don't say
it could have
anything.
been
It's
the
just
same thing, you know. That's why maybe why they didn't lynch him.
also a lot of the women that he dated, they all described him as being handsome and a charmer.
So
Yeah,
the name of the town Villisca, which had meant pretty place or pleasant view in the original language of the native habitat.
Villisca?
Yeah. So apparently it's a pretty place, and that's what Villisca comes from.
so the natives named us.
Well, that's what they took the
Do you
language
think-
of the areas.
You asked that earlier.
Do you think this house was built on an Indian burial ground?
I believe. Well, obviously the Midwest is big on native activity. All of America. All of America.
Omaha's a native
Omaha,
tribe.
right?
Omahas.
Right. So like, yeah, obviously they took that from Native American language, Villisca. You know. I'm like, who's?
So do you think this house was built Indian burial ground
Maybe the whole town.
the whole time?
Maybe the whole town.
You even said as soon as we got here that this whole town feels haunted.
Feels eerie as soon as like, I don't know.
Anyone who lives there, question like,
Have you seen the Halloween movie? It feels like the town they recorded that movie.
what?
It just-
Halloween Town?
No,
Halloween. The movie.
Oh, Michael Myers?
Halloween
Yeah.
Yeah, any of those movies, they have a town like this. Like it feels like this.
Wait, is Halloween Town a movie? It sounds.
Yeah,
It's like a
Disney.
Disney one.
It's a Disney movie, man.
It's pretty cool. I like the first one. It's pretty good.
I think I've seen one.
Yeah, it gives you that Michael Myers, you know, you know, it's like a
No, no.
beat.
I'm being as Halloween.
Yeah.
I got the mask and the jumpsuit. I
The,
just
You heard about the jumpsuit?
Yeah, he did.
You got the Terry Crews jumpsuit.
Yep.
Yeah.
He got that janitor jumpsuit.
What about y'all, huh?
Yeah, what about you, Eric? You
I still gotta get mine.
What about you, Ed? What are you gonna be for Halloween?
The most handsome guy in the world.
And you? Well, Jason.
Jason, the mask.
Or
you,
the
should be, you
Hawk.
should be Freddy Krueger. You'll pull it off.
Or James Villain.
Talking shit.
Freddy Krueger. Pull it off.
All right, let's. I pulled up a little bit about Reverend George Kelly, which is a weird name. Reverend Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly.
hell?
So I think he was probably a bitch in a past life or something, and a
Like
bitch
a
in this
female?
life. No, just a bitch.
Ed already believed I had to do that
So you
day.
believe
But
in
there's a,
reincarnation?
I'm also
I
around.
don't know, dude. Like looking at that face. Like, tell me. Look at that face.
He looks too
We
scrawny.
can barely
to
see
even-
it.
He looks too scrawny to even lift an axe.
He looks
How big
short.
of an axe are we talking?
You didn't see those holes on the attic? Like,
Yeah,
on the,
that was
like
scary.
that axe had to have been like
That looks like William Dafoe.
like this long.
That's what I thought.
For real?
Honestly, I thought William Dafoe at first.
Hey,
Like a
if they,
skinny version of William Dafoe.
if they ever make an actual good Villisca movie, a horror movie.
Well, they said they did make a.
Yeah, but they said it was horrible.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why don't you make one since you're a director?
Yeah, director.
Hire Willem Dafoe.
Ed can
All right.
play him.
Let's learn a little bit
Hey,
about.
do you want to be this dude?
George Kelly.
You want to play George Kelly?
I would never want to play this. He disgusts me just thinking of him doing it and committing this. But let's find out a little bit about him. Reverend George Kelly, the son of a minister, was born in England in 1878 and moved with his wife Laura to the United States in 1904.
He had a wife.
So this was 8 years before, or 1912, right?
Yeah, 1912.
So he had a wife and he was still doing the peeping
Yeah.
tumbles.
I mean,
Just the free.
we gotta know those times, like, you know, like if you cook dinner wrong, pow, right? You know, like.
And I'm pretty sure divorcing was very, very. No one divorced, even if you hated your partner. Back then.
Absolutely, like men had so much fucking dominance over women, it was ridiculous, right? Alright, he was known as the Little Minister because of his small penis. Just kidding, because of his small.
I was gonna say, did they really say
that? No, because of his small frame, 5'2", 190
Holy
pounds.
hell!
That's what I'm saying, right?
Hey, ain't that your height?
Yeah, that's your height, isn't it?
Damn, bro.
Why you think this fucker like
5'2"?
had that much power with
That's
his
what I'm
axe?
thinking. Like,
But I mean, you gotta use swinging an axe is more momentum based, right?
Yeah.
More leverage, and that could explain why there's that axe mark in the wall. You know, because like he had to struggle to pull that out. I mean, you could see that.
If we knew the measurements of the axe and had someone 5'2", we could like see.
you want to reenact?
That's what they could have done.
Again? You want to reenact it again?
No, not reenact. That's what the fucking FBI should have done, or whoever the fuck.
Absolutely.
They should have gotten a dude that was his height.
His
Put an axe.
his
The
weight.
axe. He left the axe here.
Mm-hmm.
Could have just grabbed the axe and fucking like seen like if it would have reached that height, like to see the height of him.
It's crazy. to think like why didn't they do that?
Yeah, like-
well, I mean, obviously the investigator was drunk, right?
Yeah, and also the mob kind of ruined all kinds of other evidence.
All right,
Like I was telling you, Watson. You should have investigated a lot
Oh,
better.
quite Holmes, yes. Reverend Kelly was considered a competent, well-versed, and articulate speaker, so that kind of touches base on that Ted
That's
Bundy,
what I was
right?
telling you, man. That Ted Bundy.
Right? So beyond the pulpit, however, he had a nervous demeanor, shifty eyes, and often spoke so quickly that saliva would dribble down his chin. Between 1904 and 1912, he preached throughout the Midwest, and in May 1912, the couple relocated to Macedonia, Iowa. On the night of June 9th of that same year, he attended Children's Day exercise in Villisca, as we previously talked, in Iowa's Presbyterian Church as a guest. Kelly spent the night with the Reverend Ewing family and left the next morning on the 5:19 a.m. train bound for his home. In 1917, he was indicted and charged with the June 10th, 1912 murder of one of the 8 victims, Lena Stillinger. By this time, it was known that Kelly had been convicted of sending obscene letters, so he was convicted, right? Not just accused, but convicted of sending obscene letters asking young girls to type in the nude for him. Type? That's kind of weird. It must have been sexing or sometime.
Just typed in the nude.
That he was a window peeper,
Could be a type.
that he had sent a bloody shirt to an Omaha laundry anonymously, and that he was obsessed with brutal murders. An elderly couple who met him on the train in 1912 also claimed he told them the murders before the crime had been discovered. On a train ride, right? Back home. Lena Stillinger's body had been moved and her near-naked body viewed by the killer. Authorities suspected the crime had a sexual motive, which makes sense. Kelly confessed twice to the killings while in custody, but recanted both times before the trial began. The first jury was hung, and the second acquitted him. He later moved to Kansas City, Connecticut, and New York City. The remaining years of his life and his family's resting place remain a mystery. So, his offspring still exists, potentially. So his bloodline still exists, potentially.
So you think his like grandchildren or great grandchildren, they kind of have his behaviorisms, like it passed down genetically?
I mean, you know, genetics are a weird thing, so
Yeah.
it's possible, right? So
Well, what I'm don't think you retain personalities.
No, but like
Not personalities, but like
that weird shit that he was like some
the
of them.
shifty eyes, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
Not personality.
like
maybe.
some body characteristics are just passed down, you know.
And this is the key to the house, and the handle of it is almost the shape of an X, like like a little mini X.
Or like a little, yeah, that or a little hammer. One of the two.
Or that.
But
Why
yeah, I
would it
think
be
it's
hammer?
X.
It would be more
Like an X right here.
like.
No, the X is on the other side, doesn't it?
Tomahawk.
There you go.
It's alright. Nah, fuck it.
Instead of tomahawk. So it really is buried under.
I'm gonna scalp Eric.
You're gonna turn Alex into the murderer tonight.
I'll take jokes.
I want to see if we can find a picture of this axe to kind of get a better idea, or at least if it's
The kind of axe
You
you
said
use.
they had it right there.
Yeah, right in the
So where is it
corner.
now?
The guy left it there. Well, maybe
Probably burned with all the other
Probably in
evidence.
the evidence locker somewhere.
Or burned.
I mean, no, because I mean it's a cold place, right? So you can't get rid of the evidence, right?
Unless the people walking in and out mess with it like that.
No, because they have it, right? They have the investigators, right? It's not.
We should have brought an axe around.
Yeah.
The
You don't think anyone took the axe, right?
No, I
I'll
don't
just
think
take the axe. You think they'll take the axe and try to sell it on the
It's
auction?
something, man.
so. Maybe.
Be like
Fuck,
this.
go buy
Be
that.
like this axe is historic. Let's take it. You know. So.
I don't think so. I do not think so.
Maybe nowadays they would
What?
take shit like that and sell it.
Yeah.
Back then
Nowadays.
there was no eBay.
No, they'll have to actually go to an auction.
There were auctions,
They had an auction house.
you know.
But be like, I stole this from an emergency.
Well, I'm pretty sure obviously wouldn't word it like that. Eric. You'd be like, oh, I found this and I believe it's the axe from the murder.
We know you shouldn't sell anything though.
Don't buy shit from Eric.
We need to sell it and not fucking make people not want to buy it.
Sorry, White Claw Busy, please endorse us. Fire.
Busy, don't endorse us.
To be honest,
Endorse me and Eric.
since I'm legit about my reviews, these taste like shit.
What? You don't like
I
them?
don't like the aftertaste.
What aftertaste?
Tastes like beer.
So what are you looking for?
I'm trying to see if we can't find the pictures
Holy
of the actual axe.
Of
Just
all-
to see kind of the size of it.
I just threw away Ed's endorsement.
You mean me and you both?
Well, to be honest, I didn't really like it.
Endorse me, I have the most following out of all these guys combined.
How long has to do?
Oh shit, it is.
Oh, they want.
I need something.
That's just this is a picture of like when it took place, right?
No, I'm trying to see like what was here and what was not here.
Wait, that's the house? How you used to
From
look?
back
This is I mean looks pretty much identical, right?
Like look over
It's
here. Almost
pretty
look
big.
like there's
That's
nothing
weird
back here.
barn.
That's the barn over there, but it looks
But you
like.
said they moved it, remember?
Yeah,
well, you said it
there's-
was further back,
That
right?
one's-
I don't see the front
that
entrance on the
okay,
barn.
yeah, that one.
Yeah, so he replaced the barn,
That's the worst one.
right, with like a building.
But it,
I don't see that anymore. That right there in the middle.
Yeah, they had to reinforce it apparently, but they must have removed it. But here we have a gallery here. I just want to see what this kind of looks like. Sorry, the internet is
Alright, Jake Cigars, sponsor us.
Don't bother them.
Endorse us, Jake. We're from Omaha.
not
You're
good.
from
I see
Omaha.
Alex getting more pissed.
Omaha.
Don't sponsor us.
It's not that good anyway.
Oh, here it is.
Atomic beam flashlights.
Here's the axe. Here's the axe.
Was that the axe?
Oh, shit.
That's the axe. So
Is that the
Oh,
investigator? That's the drunk
it's-
investigator?
this is Professor Ed Epperly of Cuther College or Cuther College, one of the two. An expert on the Villisca murder, holds the axe that he's convinced is the one used to kill 8 people in 1912. Paranormal investigator from Omaha, Nebraska. That's us.
That's
All right, here. This is a good image of the axe.
It's a ghost.
So look, it almost looks one-handed.
You're saying he was missing a hand? The guy that did it?
The axe looks one-handed,
Oh.
Eric. Look at it.
Christ.
I think he said the guy looked.
Go back to
Hey,
Look,
man.
look, you see it though?
Like
he's
he did
not
it with
holding
Saying
it.
anyone like this?
He's not holding it.
The other
See,
one's
look,
holding at the bottom,
He's holding
kid.
it at the bottom. What?
Like the other hand must be holding the bottom, but his like elbows blocking it.
Saying he's like this.
Yeah, but his elbows blocking it.
I don't think so.
Unless you're saying he's doing this.
I think he's holding like, show me that. I think he's holding it just like this. Like the bottom, and he was just going through.
Well, what kind of axe?
Look at it. I know. That one looks like it was a little bit longer, right? Maybe like this big.
Can we see the picture?
Yes.
We're hogging off shit.
What do you guys think? Doesn't look like a one-handed picture or one-handed axe.
What's that collection on the table?
Huh?
Ectoplasm?
Ectoplasm.
It does look
smelled
like,
it.
You got
Does-
that on there?
it does look like
pretty
you
big,
did
bro.
one hand.
Where did they do it? It
What's
looks
this
like
though?
yeah,
What's this? No. What's this? Is this the handle of the axe or what? What's this?
Hmm?
Right here. You see this? What's that?
Uh,
Looks like the handle of the
back
axe.
frame? It could be. Let's put the.
Oh yeah, it is.
See, instead of it being to here, it might have been all the way down to here. So you have to be holding it from like
He's
this.
pulling it like this.
Yeah.
Let's inquire more photos.
Fuck.
John Montgomery, blah blah blah.
Ain't that the Reverend?
That's the Reverend right there. Now living either in Chicago or New England. So we moved to Chicago.
Who's that? The neighbors?
That's the Reverend.
Oh,
Right there.
right there.
His Reverend, his wife,
Well,
and
he's fucking tiny.
John Montgomery, whose daughter and son-in-law and 4 grandchildren were among those killed. So this guy was related to people killed, and this little fucker was right there.
Can we look at like the top 3, what do you call it, suspects?
Yeah.
That guy was number 1, right? So who were the other 2?
Well, there's a
If
few.
anyone else was,
There was a few that they didn't connect anybody to.
because they never solved the case, so.
Yeah.
Or did they?
No, it's a cold case, dude.
Yeah,
They
that
literally.
It's the one that least
Yeah, that's
expected.
the guy. Was it?
Alright, well, we didn't really get any good images with the axe. Except
Nope.
for. Like,
Andrew Sawyer. We already went through Reverend George Kelly
It was the
or
Reverend.
Frank F. Jones.
So, we,
It was
so
him.
look, so here's our top 3. It's Andrew Sawyer, Reverend. Well, at
was
least the
Reverend.
top 3 listed. There's actually quite a few. Let's go through them all. Let's do that.
Oh.
Okay, look, the Reverend went there to rape
Just-
the girls and tell them not to say nothing, but it went wrong, so he killed them and the whole family.
No one knows. No one knows, dude.
Most likely that's what happened.
Well, I mean, he seems like the perverted kind to
Yeah.
kind of fucking do that.
So,
But they acquitted him, so they couldn't. It's just like,
Well, the first jury was hung.
yeah.
So that means they weren't unanimous on their decision, right? So that could have been one person be like, no.
It's just that his behavior kind of explains why
Let's see.
his action.
Oh, paranormal.
What did you see?
Nothing.
He saw
But,
something.
alright, Andrew Sawyer. Every transient and otherwise unaccounted for stranger was a suspect in the murders. One such suspect was a man named Andy Sawyer. No real evidence linked Sawyer to the crime, but his name came up often in grand jury testimony. According to Thomas Dyer of Burlington, Iowa, a bridge foreman and pile driver for the Burlington Railroad, Andy Sawyer approached his crew in Creston at 6 a.m. on the morning the murders were discovered. Sawyer was clean-shaven and wearing a brown suit when he arrived. His shoes were covered in mud, and his pants were wet nearly to the knees. He asked for employment, and as Dyer needed extra man, he was given a job on the spot. Dyer testified that later that evening, when the crew reached Fontanelle, Iowa, Sawyer purchased a newspaper and went off by himself to read it. The newspaper carried a front-page account of the Villisca murders, and according to Dyer, Sawyer was much interested in it. Dyer's crew complained that Sawyer slept with his clothes on and was anxious to be by himself. They were also uneasy that Sawyer slept with his axe next to him. He often talked of the Villisca murders and whether or not the killer had been apprehended. He reportedly told Dyer that he had been in Villisca that Sunday night and had heard of the murders. Afraid of being taken as a suspect, he had left and gone to Creston. Dyer was suspicious and turned him over to the sheriff on June 18, 1912. Dyer later testified that prior to the sheriff's arrival, he walked up behind Sawyer, he was rubbing his head with both hands and suddenly jumped up and said to himself, "I will cut your goddamn heads off." At the same time, he made striking motions with the axe and began hitting the piles in front of him. Dyer's son, J.R., testified that one day as the crew drove through Villisca, Sawyer told him he would show J.R. where the man who had killed the Moore family got out of town. He said that the man that did the job jumped over a manure box, where he pointed out about 1.5 blocks away, then showed where he crossed the railroad track. JR said they were footprints in the soggy ground north of the embankment. Sawyer told JR to look to the other side of the car and say he would show him an old tree where the murderer stepped into the creek. According to JR Dyer, he looked over and saw such a tree south of the track about 4 blocks away. Sawyer was dismissed as a suspect in the case when officials learned that he could prove he had been in Osceola, Iowa on the night of the murders. He had been arrested for vagrancy there, and the Osceola sheriff recalled putting him on a train to send him away at approximately 11 p.m. that evening. So that doesn't really make too much sense, like that they would dismiss him like that. Like he had a lot of description there too, right? So he could have very well done it. Like 11 p.m.
But he said the sheriff
put him on the train.
on a different town.
Put him on the train, Osceola, Iowa. So you put him on a train and send him off at 11 p.m. He could get off that train whenever, right? They said the murders took place between 12 and 5, right?
Right here, I feel like it was, how do I say it? It seems odd. Like when he says that, they said they saw him rubbing his head with both hands and suddenly jumped up and said to him, "So I'll cut your goddamn heads off." At the same time, I feel like, I don't even know if that's true, whether he did or not, but, because it seems too, like, coincidental that like this happened, and he ends up saying.
Well, obviously, this is a testimony by Dyer, the guy that gave him employment. Right?
I don't know. It just seemed. I just think Reverend George Kelly is more a likely candidate that did it.
He had his eyes on them already. He was giving that Children's Day, what was it? Children's Day
At the
services.
Church.
So this guy clearly was a predator, right?
Yeah.
Clearly a predator.
All right. You read the other ones. They're over here. Just chilling.
I think that's.
We need Frank Jones.
No, I'm not.
Did you take it?
We'll take what? What are you talking about?
The thing.
Read Frank Jones.
Oreo.
Yeah, Frank Jones. Who's
Still in
Frank?
your pocket.
That's another candidate who killed the killer.
Fernando Jones was a Villisca resident and an Iowa State Senator. Josiah Moore had worked for Frank Jones at his implement store for many years before leaving to open his own store. Moore reportedly took business away from Jones, including a very successful John Deere dealership. Moore was rumored to have sexual affair with Jones' daughter-in-law, though no evidence supports this.
So he's only related to him because he worked for Josiah, and
Vice versa, right? And he stole a John Deere job or contract, essentially.
he started his own business with John Deere dealership, and he had a relationship with sexual. He know it's a rumor. They had a sexual affair
Yeah,
with
they had
Jones'
no proof.
daughter-in-law,
Lisa.
but there's no evidence for that. I don't know why was he a candidate? I feel like they were just naming people. Like, all right,
He was a resident, Iowa State Senator. Moore had worked for Frank Jones. Okay. For many years. There was a rumor about the sexual affair. And obviously,
no evidence.
in small towns, like, word spreads. So, like, you could literally tell one person, like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, I slept with the senator's daughter." And that'll spread like wildfire in small towns,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's how Mexico is. Like,
On the ranchos.
anything you do, everyone next to
All right, Gio, don't read all of that, but well, you know what? Read all of it.
You think you can read?
William
He's
Mansfield,
on a 5th grade reading level.
next candidate who possibly did it.
Yo, there's no back.
So the whole first sentence?
The whole thing.
They have to go to the bar,
Kid's
right?
lazy.
Alright.
So if that guy was waiting for hours,
Willie-
he like pissed himself or shit himself?
So there should be DNA.
Oh, Gio, read the damn
Oh, go ahead,
sentence.
Damn, he waited for you.
I thought Gio was stuck at the first word.
William Mansfield, another theory was that Senator Jones hired William Blackie Mansfield to murder the Moore family. It is believed that Mansfield was a serial killer because he murdered his wife, infant child, and parents-in-law with an axe 2 years after the Villisca crimes. Villisca crimes. He is believed to have committed the axe murders in Paola, Kansas, 4 days before the Villisca crimes.
Villisca.
Wait, so that was like
there was a murder in Kansas apparently.
Years after the Villisca murders.
No, before.
no, he said
then-
before,
and
and then after.
No,
Clean
there's
out your ears.
infant child. He killed his wife and infant child. Parents-in-law 2 years after the Villisca, and he's believed to have committed the axe murders in Pueblo, Kansas.
No,
4
but
days.
read more.
No, no.
And he also did it
Yeah,
before.
4 days before.
He
Villisca.
is believed to have committed the axe murders in Paola, Kansas 4 days before the Villisca crimes.
Exactly, that's
He's
what we
believed.
said before.
He's believed.
Okay,
So
but
it's
we'll continue
speculation.
down. We'll continue down to
Go.
see if there's any more.
He was
He was also suspected.
In the double homicide of Jenny Peterson and Jenny Miller in Illinois, each crime site was accessible by train. And all murders were carried out in virtually the same manner.
We did just hear
Alright.
the train. So
I'll-
anyone,
Yeah, I mean,
anyone could be
take a- take a-
coming in
take a
from,
five.
from
Good
different
job.
towns.
Nice try. Nice try.
I thought Floyd Mayweather was reading for Alright.
Right here.
Oh shit.
That's what they pay me for a stand-up, Eric. Remember that?
Where were you?
He finished the first sentence, so
You
you're
barely finished the first paragraph?
Yeah, he finished that
Holy
first.
shit. There was like 3 sentences, dude. Okay, Mansfield was released after a special grand jury of Montgomery County refused to indict him on grounds that his alibi checked out. 9 months before the murders at Villisca, a similar case of axe murders occurred in Colorado Springs, Colorado. 2 axe murder cases followed in Ellsworth, Kansas, and Paola, Kansas. The cases were similar enough to raise the possibility of having been committed by the same person. Other murders reported as possibly being linked to these crimes, including the numerous unsolved axe murders along the Southern Pacific Railroad from 1911 to 1912. The unsolved axemen of New Orleans killings, as well as several other such murders during this time period. The murders in Colorado Springs were closely related execution to those in the Moore's house, 9 months before the Villisca murders. H.C. Wayne, his wife, and child, and Mrs. A.J. Berman were found dead in Colorado Springs, murdered with an axe or axes. The Colorado Springs police found it difficult to believe that the same person could perpetrate a similar crime in the city as in the Villisca murders. Bed sheets were used to cover the windows to prevent passerbys from looking in. At the Moore's house, the murderer hung aprons and skirts to cover the windows. As in the murders in Villisca, the murderer in Colorado Springs wiped the blood off his axe and covered the heads of the victim with bedcloths. You want to go?
Mansfield was also the prime suspect of the Burns Detective Agency of Kansas City and Detective James Newton Wilkinson, which is suggested that he was a cocaine-addicted serial killer. According to contemporary news reports, Wilkinson believed Mansfield was responsible for the axe murders of his wife, infant child, and father-in-law and mother-in-law in Blue Island, Illinois. On July 5th, 1914, 2 years after the Villisca murders, the axe murders were committed in Paola, Kansas 4 days before the Villisca murders and the murders of Jenny Peterson and Jenny Miller in Aurora, Illinois. According to Wilkerson's investigation, all the murders were committed in precisely the same manner, indicating that the same man probably committed them. Wilkerson stated that he could prove that Mansfield was present in each of the defining crime scenes on the night of the murders. In each murder, the victims were hacked to death with an axe, and the mirrors in the homes were covered. A burning lamp with the chimney off was left at the foot of the bed, and the basin in which the murder washed was found in the kitchen. In each case, the murderer avoided leaving fingerprints by wearing gloves, which Wilkerson believed was strong evidence that the man was Mansfield, who knew his fingerprints were on file at the federal military prison at Leavenworth.
Leavenworth, yes. So Wilkinson managed to convince a grand jury to open an investigation in 1916. And Mansfield was arrested and brought to Montgomery County from Kansas City. Payroll records, however, provided an alibi that placed Mansfield in Illinois at the time of the Villisca murders. Well, obviously, you can forge those, right? He was released for lack of evidence and later won a lawsuit he brought against Wilkerson and was awarded $2,225. Wilkerson believed that pressure from Jones resulted not only in Mansfield's release, but also in the subsequent arrest and trial of Reverend Kelly. However, R.H. Thorpe A restaurant owner from Shenandoah, Iowa, identified Mansfield as the man he saw the morning after the Villisca murders boarding a train at Clarinda. The man said he had walked from Villisca. If proven to be true, this testimony would disprove Mansfield's alibi. Furthermore, it was reported that Mrs. Vina Tompkins of Marshallton was on her way to testify that she had heard 3 men in the woods plotting the murder of the Moore family a short time before the killings.
Yeah, so it could have been multiple people?
So it could have been multiple people. Yeah,
Wow.
but why?
Like that were
Right.
they were
The senator, we
What
know.
if they 3 of them came out of there? One went for them, one went for the kids, and one came down.
But there's one axe.
They could have just left one.
They took
Show
turns?
that it was just one person.
They took turns with the axe?
No, I mean, cause like they'd have to use like identical axes then, right? Like identical.
Well, you go to any store and they'll sell you the same axe.
But even then, they're not all identical, right? Like like they're just not. Like nothing's ever. Really
What if it was William Mansfield, Reverend George Kelly, and Andrew Sawyer? Those
What if the
3
senator?
3 of them?
What if the senator hired these guys to take care of him because of that John Deere contract? Like John Deere is obviously a big company.
Hell
That's
yeah,
a
it's a
lot
big
of
company.
money. Let's see.
And another candidate is Henry Lee Moore. There's no relation for some reason that says that.
Well, because they're the Moore family.
Henry Lee Moore. Is it spelled differently or is it?
No, it's the same, but they're not related.
Henry Lee Moore was a suspected serial killer who was not related to the Slim Moore family, who was convicted of the murder of his mother and grandmother several months after the murders in Villisca. His weapon of choice being an axe. Before and after the murders in Villisca, the very similar axe murders on his mother and grandmother were committed, and all the cases showed striking similarities, leading to strong suspicion that some or all the crimes were committed by an axe murdering serial killer. And just like Blackie Mansfield, the axe murdering Henry Moore can also be considered a suspect in some of these slayings. Huh.
But we don't have any more details past that.
I wonder why their weapon of choice was axe.
What if
Well, guns make too much noise.
what if that was like a common thing back then? Like
Well,
everyone was
obviously-
killing with those things.
Like we saw at Mansfield, like how many axe killings there were. New Orleans, Colorado Springs, Kansas.
So you can't really link all of them to one person unless he was
It was a
literally
very
traveling
item.
traveling serial killer.
And a lot of people were farmers back in the day, so of course they'll have axes to cut firewood or something.
There you go.
Well, a lot of people had axes. Cause think about it.
There was
Today we have furnaces, right? Back then you had to use like these little vents right here. You had to put fire in to heat.
I bet you a lot of houses had that too. A lot of those back then. To keep
Eric's
themselves.
house has this. Is that old? I wouldn't be surprised.
Let's see, Sam Moyer. At the inquest, it was reported that Sam Moyer, Josiah's brother-in-law, often threatened to kill Josiah Moore. However, upon further investigation, Moyer's alibi cleared him of the crime, and that's all we get there.
Why is he even on? Well, Sam, alright, I guess.
Paul Mueller. In their 2017 book, The Man from the Train, Bill James, and his daughter Rachel McCarthy, James discussed the Villisca murders as a part of a much larger series of murders which they believe were all committed by a single serial killer. They conclude the murderer was Paul Mueller, an immigrant possibly from Germany who was the subject of an unsuccessful year-long manhunt as the sole suspect of the 1897 murder of a family in West Brookfield, Massachusetts, who had employed him as a farmhand. James started his research in an attempt to solve the Villisca murders. With his daughter found archival newspaper stories detailing dozens of families murdered under similar circumstances across the U.S. The Jameses thus believed that Mueller was guilty of the Villisca murder as a part of a killing spree that lasted over a decade, killing at least 59 people in 14 separate incidents, including the Colorado Springs and Paola crimes. The Jameses identify common features to these crimes, many of which are also found at the Villisca scene. The killer selected families who lived near railroad tracks, hence their book's title, seemingly struck in ambush at about midnight while victims were asleep, used the blunt side of an axe rather than the blade to strike the victims in the head and face, used an axe found at the victim's home and left in plain sight after the murders, covered the victims with blankets to prevent blood splatter, covered windows from the inside of the house, and locked the doors before departure. In Mueller's suspected crimes, there was often but not always a sexual motive directed towards a pubescent girl, as with Lena's being partially disrobed. In a blurb on the dust jacket of the handover edition of hardcover edition of The Man from the Train, professor and crime writer Harold Schechter writes that James offered the most probable solution yet for the Villisca murder.
Paul Mueller.
So Paul Mueller seems like a real big man of interest.
And for reason that's because he's connected to a lot of other killings that he's done.
Well, yeah.
With an axe.
We should have brought the cat. Well, the cat would have been here.
Can you hear him?
Yeah.
Maybe he's trying to get inside.
What if we let him in here and just leave him in here?
What if he pisses and shits?
Oh yeah, what's he gonna eat?
He'll probably eat your...
What if we leave him the rest of those hot dogs?
Oh, bro, come on, dude.
You serious? You think cats eat hot dogs, man?
Do they eat hot dogs?
This is not
They'll eat
Chico that
anything.
eats anything.
Chico's a survivor.
It's gonna ask, yeah, it's gonna ask for that.
Extra though, he has like
Chico will
5
eat
cats.
anything, but he will
Man
not drink
from the
sink
train.
water because he's upper echelon.
I'm gonna have to read this book.
Dude, you feed him human food. That's why he doesn't eat his damn dog food.
So the man from the train, the Jameses claim to have discovered through analysis of contemporary records the existing identity of a serial killer, Paul Mueller, who operated throughout North America in the early 20th century, killing between 40 and 100 people.
Damn.
Bill James is best known as a baseball analyst using sabermetrics, but also writes about crime, having previously published Popular Crime Reflections of the Celebration of Violence. Huh. So that's something I'm gonna have to look into, the man from the train.
That sounds interesting.
So out of those suspects that we discussed, you know, like that Paul Mueller, William Mansfield, and Reverend George Kelly are the ones that stick out to me. And they said that they had 3 men discussing it, right?
Mm-hmm. There's one that claimed heard 3 men talking about it. I don't think they know who those 3 men were.
A premeditated hit by the Senator Frank F. Jones, who probably got George Kelly, Mansfield, and Mueller to execute this.
That way they made it seem like it was one person, and you couldn't link any of the 3 because they were out here.
And they all somehow had some alibi, but paperwork isn't
I'm pretty
an
sure they
alibi
had
to
3
me.
axes. They took the other 2, left 1
Why did they leave one?
No. I
to
don't,
make it seem like it was one person.
I don't
when
think so.
originally it was 3.
I don't think
Did you
don't
just
you
say
think
R. Kelly?
Oh, a little bit of
Because
what happened.
especially at those times, like the
Reverend
multiple
Kelly. What if
accidents
they
that
were
came out
Kelly?
saying, right?
Yeah,
Like the
but
blades,
how
like
are
at
they
those
gonna
times,
know
what do you
it
mean?
was that axe
you
that
can-
did all 3 hits?
Because you can see like I said, the molds aren't exactly the same. So
And he hit the guy like 20 times,
I'm just saying,
especially
like,
the guy. I'm
the
pretty sure it
one
was a
end
hit,
could be
because that
smaller,
was, like-
could be bigger, because the molds weren't perfect.
But if you
right?
hit someone enough times, you're not gonna be able to tell.
And the
with
only
what
one
fucking
who got
piece of the
the
axe
only
he
one
hit.
who got really fucked up was the dad. Was,
Yeah, the
was
one that
Josiah
made the
Moore.
contract.
Now I'm thinking that if there were more people, it makes sense how no one else like made a fuss except for Lena. Because if there were, let's say it was 3 people,
They were down
one,
here.
yeah, the other
was
were probably holding the kids and not make a sound, while the other one was killing the rest, or
No.
killing the parents.
I believe they were all
It makes
asleep,
more
minus
sense.
Lena.
Well, if they were all asleep and one guy did all of it, that just makes it even more like crazy that
Harder.
it fucking happened.
Well, I mean,
And
if you
harder.
hit somebody while they're sleeping, they're not gonna make a noise. They'll probably shit themselves,
How-
but they won't make a noise past that.
Okay, if you were sleeping, let's say someone hits you with the back end of the axe, let's say it's not, it can either knock you
If
out.
it's a killing blow, it's a killing blow.
Not all of it's a killing blow. Because it
That's what
can,
I'm saying. If it's a killing blow, it's a killing blow.
would you instantly believe yourself that you'll feel it and be like, whoa, what the hell?
If I got hit, like, and it wasn't a killing blow, and well, I mean, still, like, even
Just
if it's not
imagine
a killing
yourself.
blow, imagine boxing. You get fucking hit and you get knocked out, right?
Mhm.
Like, alright, so it's not a killing blow, and it still will knock you unconscious, right?
But not everyone who will throw the killing blow is an expert at making sure you're knocked out. Boxers are very known to know what knocks you out. They practice every day, but someone who just like, you know what, I'm gonna try killing this person are not really good
But
at killing.
clearly, you know, these suspects, they
Well, yeah.
show that they had maybe some relation to these other murders that were going. They were covering the windows with drop cloths.
Reverend George Kelly, there is no relation to him killing someone. It's just him doing weird shit, right? But Andrew's
Like he had interaction with these kids,
Mhm.
and he was clearly a sexual deviant. You know.
Would it have been impossible for one person to do it or no? That's not
no.
possible.
I don't think it's impossible.
It's
I think it's
probable.
probable.
Because someone would have like heard right the first 2
Well, we're gonna test later on if these walls are like very soundproof, and if someone screams like, will they hear it like, yes or no?
Imagine the cops come when we do that.
Well, wait, there's no cop here. Remember, the last cop left.
Yeah, he retired.
He scared him away.
There's no police around Villisca.
That's why I brought my 9.
The X-Men scared him away.
9 beers.
So you're telling me this city is lawless?
Dude, pretty much.
Lawless.
Flawless and lawless.
What if we light this house on fire? Just so
Bro,
family could have peace.
how would that put him in peace?
You're gonna say
Have you
that on
never
camera?
watched Beetlejuice?
Dude, they'll never have people in here again.
Oh,
They can privately
yeah.
rest.
No, dude,
No.
That doesn't send them though.
No.
No,
Doesn't
way.
send 'em.
Come on. Have you?
We have
The house
to.
traps
We
them,
have
right?
to find the
The
murderer.
house traps their souls.
I feel like
Kinda
finding.
get
rid of the
I
house.
feel like them finding out who the
No,
murderer
not
is
at all.
will give them peace,
Because
not
if
burning
we're
down
on
their
an
home.
Indian burial site, right? What's trapping their souls?
The
Yes.
bodies that are buried under.
So you're telling me this is the guy that believes in the Hollow Earth?
All right, we're not gonna get to that.
Yeah, we're not
But,
burning that. But no, not burning down the house would set them free. I don't feel like it will.
I feel like it would.
I feel like finding the
I'm not
guy.
saying.
That's a fucking felony that you're committing.
But I'm saying like it'll fucking stop all the people coming here and disrespecting them.
But I mean, yeah, there's always gonna be disrespectful people, but I mean, that's why I'm trying to
They
be
can't come
respectful
here.
to them, I guess.
Yeah, I'm trying to be respectful also.
I'm trying to figure out
You
what
guys are
happened.
trying, but you're not doing it.
These are beautiful babies that were killed, man. You know, it's like, it's sad.
In a small little town.
They had that guy who's in here reenacting murders and shit.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Disrespectful.
that is that is.
Yeah.
But you saw what happened as he was doing it. He said he heard something tell him to do it. And he's like, all right, I'm freaked out.
See, when I wouldn't say I was reenacting, but I was trying to figure out like where he came from. Like, was he actually in the attic? Was he in the closet? Like,
Yeah, I saw you going around like you were like looking around to see like how was it like happen? How would it happen?
like you know, like how do you do it without alarming anyone else? You know, the boards aren't really creaky when you walk through them, except for the
They're
kitchen. You know, the kitchen's the only.
Well, this
place.
is old wood. This is like.
Well, me.
And how old it is, like
yeah,
especially
they used
then,
to make
like there's
shit
no,
good.
Well, I think me and Ed were down here and y'all were coming downstairs. It sounded like other extra noises right in here. Yeah, we were in this room and we heard like extra noises down here. But I think it was the stairs as you were going down.
Yeah, because it's connected right there.
But it sounded so like eerie, very eerie. Especially because Eric said
Define
that
eerie. I don't think you know what that word is.
eerie, like odd.
like ominous.
Yeah, it's odd.
I guess you
It
do.
gives you a feeling of like what is it?
I'm just keeping your.
Do you know what you're
Do you know what it is?
I think that's why he was asking.
No, 'cause
so
he
he
kept-
kept finding
He was
out.
hiding under that.
He
Like,
kept using that word as soon as you said it once.
Yeah.
So
Wait,
I'm like,
sir.
does this guy even know what that is?
I didn't know I had to trademark that word.
Almost, sir, you're saying like if the owner just closed his house forever, that's peace for the people.
That's what I'm thinking.
Instead
I
of
feel like
burning
finding-
into the ground.
I feel like finding the killer. If
I'm
I
not
figure it out.
associated with these guys.
Neither am I.
Even if we
Neither
find
am
him,
I.
like he's already, they're gone. He's
Huh?
gone.
But these people, the people that died here, they're the only ones
That
probably
know.
that know who did it.
Lena is the only one
No,
that
they were
has.
sleeping.
Well, then Lena.
Lena's
Okay.
the only one that saw
And
who did it.
if you believe in the afterlife and like spirits and everything, then she's probably living in the afterlife.
She's probably the one that
No.
hasn't passed through because, like she saw her murder. She was awake when she experienced death. Like everybody else was asleep, so they went peacefully in a sense. Like they didn't wake up to pain. They didn't wake up to suffering. Lena, she got attacked.
What's hunting this house?
Huh?
What's hunting this
Is
house?
something
Probably
haunting
the
house?
tragedy that happened.
Is something haunting this house?
I don't see that.
We'll figure it out. We're gonna find out later on as we
Come
go
on,
through the
Eric.
whole house. See, we're gonna test everything. If there's anything.
Let us know what you think in the comments. Subscribe, like this video.
I'm gonna have a subscribe button right here.
Yeah, let us
So
know.
I clarified that you're not an asshole.
Clarify.
No, I'm not an asshole.
I'm not affiliated with them.
We're gonna say a prayer for these people.
Way to
that
be
died.
humble, Eric. Way to be humble. But no,
mean, that
definitely
was
let us know what you think about
Ed
the
was over
Villisca
there
murder.
that saying that both those chicks wanted him. So
Oh,
I don't know.
shit.
Hit me up.
That's neither here
Comment
nor
your,
there.
hold on. Comment your phone numbers below if you want me to hit you up. I definitely will.
Yeah, you're probably. Probably out here.
Never.
Whenever Ed does this, I just imagine him going like, "Hey girls."
Damn, bro, I ain't like that, dude. I let them.
That's what I think.
I let them want me. Alright? But no, let us know what you think about the Villisca murders.
You want to take a hard five?
Yeah, definitely. I gotta pee.
All right. We'll be back. We'll take a hard 15.
We're not gonna put this.
15.